Hello, dear students. Today we are going to have a new lesson in rapport to your book level 4 for all the forms. And now today we are going to have a lesson about what we call eco-driving. As you notice here, this lesson is concerning all the fourth forms. And the lesson today, as you notice from the title, eco-driving, and from the word eco, we have a kind of ecology, and driving from the verb to drive. What do we drive? We drive usually cars and means of transport. Shall we begin with a picture like this? And normally we can see our globe, our planet, our motherland, as the Indians of America call it. And around or just below the land there is fire, and fire gives us heat. What's the matter? It's not the magma that you find in the center of the earth. This is representing somehow a phenomenon that is happening in our modern times due to what? Due to the different development of technology and the industrial revolutions and progress. Then the lesson we are going to begin with, or the part that we are going to begin our lesson to come to what we call eco-driving, is global warming. As you see here, this is our planet. We can call it a globe. And here we have the word global, the adjective from globe, and warming. Normally, when you are cold in our houses, we warm our houses. But when as you know, too much warming causes sometimes some problems to our health. But if we warm the earth, we warm the atmosphere, we warm the lower atmosphere and the upper atmosphere of the planet, something might happen, and dangerously. Here now, before we begin our lesson, we are going to have a series of words on the left and words on the right. We are simply going to match the words from the left with the words from the right to have the synonyms. The first word, retreat, it means to move back. And remember, these words are necessary to understand the text that is going to follow. The word shrink means to get smaller. Sometimes clothes, when put in water, some kind of tissue may shrink. It means they get smaller. And we're talking about our planet, what is going to shrink, or what shrinks in our planet, certainly we are going to discover later on. The word to predict, it's a verb here. You notice the prefix pre, which means before, and therefore it means to foresee. Again, here the prefix for, it means before, and the verb to foresee, it means to see before, not to see with our eyes. It means to try to know what might happen before we know. It's a kind of prediction like the weather forecast, or we try to predict the future. Expand, and the meaning is to get bigger. So it's the opposite of to shrink. To shrink, something shrinks, something expands, gets bigger. The second, or the last but one word, is the adjective drastic. And as you know from the words here, we have to look for an adjective. The only adjective you notice here is severe. So severe and drastic are somehow synonyms. We talk of a drastic situation, a severe climate, I don't know, any other thing that is severe. The last word is to advocate, and therefore it is to support and to back, Now, here is a text that we are going to have. I'm going to read the text. You are going to listen and try to read with me. We go slowly. Some effects of recent climate change may already be occurring. Rising sea level, glacier retreat, Arctic shrinkage, and altered patterns of agriculture are cited as direct consequences, but predictions for secondary and regional effects include extreme weather events, an expansion of tropical diseases, changes in the timing of seasonal patterns in ecosystems, and drastic economic impact. Concerns have led to political activism, advocating proposals to reduce, eliminate, or adapt to it. As you notice here, some of the words that we have mentioned before, those words synonyms, we have here the word Arctic shrinkage. So The Arctic, it means in the north. When we talk of the North Pole, that is all of it is large because of the huge amount of ice. It is shrinking. It means it is getting smaller. The glacier retreat. It means those are retreating. They are moving back, and this results in having larger parts of ice are getting smaller due to what we are going to discover. And therefore altered, as you see here, the verb to alter, it means to change, altered patterns of agriculture are cited as direct consequences of what? Of what we call at the beginning of the text, some effects of recent climate change. And when you look at this text, you're certainly going to find a lot of effects concerning this kind of climate change. Here now, we are going to, when we go back to the text, we find what we say here, the effects of global warming. We say global warming, or we say greenhouse effect. And as you know, greenhouse effect, for example, when you make those plastic domes in which or under which we grow vegetables, and the phenomenon happens to cover the plants with plastic so that you keep some heat inside, so therefore the plants are going to grow a bit rapidly. These are the effects that we have just seen in the text. Rising sea levels. This is one of the effects of global warming. When the sea rises to go up, imagine the sea rises, therefore it's going to progress, it's going to advance, and therefore it's going to cover parts of land. Maybe we might be afraid that one day our planet or some of the low parts of the land may be totally submerged or overwhelmed by water. There is an example. If you look carefully in your atlas, you'll find that a small region that is a small country that is called Tuvalu is somehow threatened by disappearing because of global warming, because the sea is going to rise, and therefore it is going to cover all the island. The people there are thinking about their future. Luckily, of course, there is always a solution. It's, of course, as we always say, that the land or our planet or our future is in our hands. It depends always on man. Second effect is what you call Arctic shrinkage. As we have mentioned before, that the Arctic, those parts of ice in the North Pole are going to become smaller and smaller. And imagine those ice blocks, that are mountains, not rather blocks, they are going to melt, and therefore they are going to get in the sea to make the sea rise. Now, the following one is altered patterns of agriculture. What is meant by altered patterns of agriculture is that sometimes we might have fruit or vegetables before their time, and sometimes we have a kind of change in the taste of the fruit or of agriculture due to this kind of a cycle of an ecological imbalance. The following one is we are going to have what we call an extreme weather events. And the extreme, as it is mentioned is here, that's the extremity. It means extreme weather events like floods, like droughts, like hurricanes and cyclones, and the tsunami. It means the tidal waves that have submerged the island of Sumatra, causing hundreds or not thousands of victims and a lot of damage in the earth. The following one is an expansion of tropical diseases. Expansion of tropical diseases, and we're going to discover later, through pictures, how the diseases that might be limited in one place may expand to move from one place to another. The last one is what we call here changes in the timing of seasonal patterns. Sometimes, as you know, spring, we cannot decide whether now it is winter or summer, or spring or winter, or spring or summer. This is what we call a kind of disturbance in the ecosystem. The last one, therefore, is we're going to have what we call a drastic economic impact. Of course, all of these effects are going to result in an economic problem. Now, The following is another paragraph. It begins with the word goals, as you mentioned here, colored. The goals of what? Our goals. The goals of what we call scientists or what environmentalists. We are going to read quickly here to find out what the goals are. Goals commonly expressed by environmental scientists include reduction and cleanup of pollution with future goals of zero pollution, luckily. Reducing consumption of non-renewable fuels, development of alternative, green, low-carbon or renewable energy sources, conservation and sustainable use of scarce resources such as water, land and air, protection of pristine ecosystems, preservation of threatened and endangered species, extinction, the establishment of nature and biosphere reserves under various types of protection, and most generally, the protection of biodiversity and ecosystems upon which all human and other life on Earth depends. So our life depends on many of the goals that humans must make great efforts to reach these. Let's discover what are the goals of environmentalists or environmental scientists. This is one of the goals as we have mentioned in the text. This is it. Reduction and cleanup of pollution with future goals of zero pollution. This is the main objective or target of or goal of most humans who are trying to work in order or to take steps in order to reach this kind of degree of pollution, zero pollution. It might be a dream, but we don't know what the future holds. Every dream may come true. The following one is reducing consumption of non-renewable fuels. And the following one is a development of alternative, green, low-carbon, or renewable energy resources. We notice here the difference between non-renewable and renewable. Non-renewable fuels, after consuming them, they are going to be thrown in landfills or on our planet. But when you talk of renewable energy sources, it means we use them and we reuse them. We will talk about recycling a bit later. And the last one in our slide here is the preservation of endangered species. As you know, there are many species that are in danger. Just to take an example, elephants. We also talk about the panda. We talk about lots of insects and butterflies that are on the verge of extinction because of this kind of natural disturbance. Then the last one is a protection of what we call pristine ecosystems, and pristine means clean. It means not polluted. That is the ultimate goal of people, or our final goal is to reach what we call zero pollution. Now, this is just a chart. I wanted simply to mention this kind of column, as you see here. This is what we call the future increase in temperature in degrees Celsius. And we notice here 1990 and therefore 2100. Notice, just imagine this kind of increase that goes from 1 or from 0 and it goes up to 6. Imagine 6 degrees are added to our planet. Therefore, this rise in temperature will cause a lot of problems. That's why we talk of risks and impacts of global warming. The other columns, just to show you or to mention that the risks are not in rise of temperature. We can talk, for example, here, the number 1 is risks of unique and threatened systems, frequency. Number 2 is the frequency and severity of extreme climate events. And as you notice here, we have the word increase from low to up, etc. Now, the following one is that's what we call the warming of the surface and lower atmosphere by increasing the greenhouse effect. The warming of the surface on lower atmosphere. Our planet is, of course, having what we call the surface of it, and then we have the lower atmosphere. in which we have a lot of oxygen and different gases. And of course, if we harm those gases, if you use the map, it means totally or destroy this kind of balance between the different components of the atmosphere, we will have a lot of dangers. And this is especially caused by what we call the increasing, by increasing the greenhouse effect. Now, this is just a small paragraph to interpret the table that we have seen before. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change concludes from models that global temperatures will likely rise by 1.1 to 6.4 degrees Celsius between 1990 and 2001, what we have just seen. Now, 1.1 in 1990 increase, and when we come to 2100, it is 6.4. With the range of temperatures due to the use of differing scenarios of future greenhouse gas emissions and varying degrees of climate sensitivity. Of course, these are statistics, but statistics are not, they are certain predictions. Of course, as we said from the beginning, that we should not see the future as dark or gloomy. It depends on us, it depends on you too. Everybody can participate in cleaning up our Earth and keeping a cleaner atmosphere for the future generation. Now, this is what is meant by the effects of global warming, and greenhouse gases can stay in the atmosphere for an amount of years ranging from decades, a decade is a period of 10 years, to hundreds and thousands of years. No matter what we do, global warming is going to have some effect on Earth. That means we can do lots of things to avoid the danger, the risk, the hazard, but there are things, because we have not begun maybe earlier to take steps, that the global warming is going to have some effect on our planet Earth. I just here want to show you that the 5 deadliest effects of global warming. The first one is this: polar ice caps melting. That's what we call the Arctic shrinkage. And as we notice from the picture here, we see these blocks of ice are melting, and therefore making the large areas of ice getting smaller. There are 5,773,000 cubic miles of water in ice caps, glaciers, and permanent snow. According to the National Snow and Ice Data Center, if all the glaciers melted today, the seas would rise about 230 feet. Luckily, that's not going to happen all in one go. It does not happen at once. It takes maybe decades or it takes years, but sea levels will certainly rise. The following one, deadliest as it is called, it's the economic consequences. And of course, here you see the New York Stock Exchange, and of course it represents economy, and therefore, for example, we take those causes of the global warming called hurricanes or cyclones, or sometimes tornadoes or tidal waves that happened in Sumatra, caused billions of dollars in damage. Diseases cost money to treat and control, and conflicts aggravate all of these. It means the economic troubles oblige people to spend a lot of money, therefore to lose a lot of money. The following one is what you call about increased probability and intensity of droughts. Droughts, it means the absence of rain, and heat waves. And as you see the picture here, some animals are dead, there is no rain, the trees are disappearing. Water is already a dangerously rare commodity in Africa. And according to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, global warming will worsen the conditions and could lead to conflicts and war. And we sometimes talk about water wars, and this is it, because water is a necessity, and we cannot live with it. So in case there is a little water, everybody wants to drink or to use water because life depends on it. The following consequences: number 4, warmer waters and more hurricanes. As you see here the hurricane, and we know that as the temperature of ocean rises, so will the probability of more frequent and stronger hurricanes. So hurricanes are getting more and more dangerous. It's not something only natural, but because of the changes that are happening on our planet, in our oceans, this kind of rise of temperature will cause waters to warm, and therefore we will have more and more hurricanes. The following one, that's what we call the spread of disease. And here, as northern countries warm, disease-carrying insects migrate north, bringing plague and disease with them. Plague, or plagues in plural, it means fleas, pests, etc. As you have noticed, for example, the spread of the bird flu, it has not remained just in Asia or in Africa. It's moving north, reaching even the northern part of the hemisphere. Then, if we look here to ask a question, are there possible solutions? Or is the future really black? Can we take steps? This question here, can we take steps? It means if we say that our planet, our future depends on us as humans, and not only humans as individuals and as organizations and as governments, international organizations and so on. The answer may be given by this website. You can take notes if you like. This is it, www.recyclinggarbage.net. When you surf this website, you will find a lot of information about how to solve the problem, even as individuals. You as pupils and all the people as individuals can participate or can take part. And now, this is it, what those people who are responsible for designing this website, they say the following. I think, if you look here, I think that almost everything can be recycled. Almost everything can be recycled. Notice the word re, it means to do again, to copy, to recopy, to write, to rewrite, etc. And recycling has expanded and grown to allow for everything from paper to plastic to batteries to be recycled and made into something useful for everyday use. It takes the waste that would just sit in a landfill, taking years to degrade and break down. So it depends on us if we are going to recycle the products we use. We are not going to throw them in landfills and cover them with land, and therefore we will have mountains of garbage thrown everywhere, or causing some kinds of poisoning the land, because as we see, for example, the word batteries here, we know batteries have a lot of poisons. That's why you are always advised by all means of mass media to avoid throwing them, whether sometimes even the small battery of your watch not to be thrown, because it is very dangerous and causes a lot of poisoning to our earth. Now, here we have may the dream come true. And as we see here, may the dream come true. It's a question, and what is the dream, first of all? You remember at the beginning of the text we said zero pollution. That is the goal of all environmental scientists and all of the humans living on this planet. And what does the dream consist in? Here the dream consists in what? In using water for petrol. Water instead of petrol. Oh, that's nice. Imagine one day, instead of going to the gasoline station, the petrol station, to fill in the tank of your car, you simply get to the tap of your garden and put the hose and just fill the tank with water. What is that? Here, apart from recycling and relying on scientific research, we have talked about recycling things and relying on scientific research. For that, we have this website that I have just shown you, www.recyclinggarbage.net, suggests some solutions that how much energy we are going to save. Imagine how much energy, how much petrol are we going to save and not use, and therefore how many cars are going to need petrol. The following one is, just have a look here, Consider letting your fingers do the walking and shop online. Your fingers do the walking. We usually walk using our feet, but I mean, when I use my finger to do the walking, I don't walk, and the result means use your fingers here. If you see, this is the keyboard. It means I use my fingers to do the shopping. That is what we call shopping online. And nowadays, with the introduction of the internet and shopping online, instead of using your car, wasting energy, and your car is going to release or to discharge a lot of carbon dioxide, you simply surf the net, give your order, and everything comes to your home by what we call those delivery boys. The following one is think before you toss. This is a kind of question of civic behavior. I mean, sometimes there are people who drive their cars and immediately after smoking their cigarette, they throw it away, or eating or drinking something and they throw it from the window. To toss a coin, you know, the referee before the beginning of the match, he tosses a coin to give the two teams which half of the field they are going to choose. So think before you toss. The last one is grow your own fruit and vegetables. Sometimes you might imagine, well, what's the rapport of growing fruit and vegetables to solve the problem of pollution or to help reduce this kind of global warming? Imagine that in most people who have gardens grow fruit and vegetables in their homes. Therefore, they are not going to buy a lot of fruit and vegetables from the markets. And therefore, those cars that bring bigger quantities of fruit and vegetables to the market are going not to use their cars, since we need only a smaller quantity as the people produce in their gardens. Therefore, a great number of cars are not going to be used. Therefore, a lot of carbon dioxide is not going to be released. Therefore, a lot of energy is going to be saved, and so on and so forth. Now, that is normally the title of our lesson. It was all a long introduction, I'm sorry, but this is a very important thing when you talk about eco-driving. Eco means ecological and driving. Notice this kind of water and fire. Water equals combustible fuel. Bang. It means with water we can change, instead of using petrol, this is the house and you are going to just use water. How is that? Look at this arrow, road to hell. I'm sorry for the word hell, but I don't mean it. What I mean here by the word hell is that are we really destroying ourselves by ourselves? And that is the truth. It means machines and industry, cars, means of transport, all the sorts of vehicles, those planes that use up a lot of quantities or huge quantities of oxygen. Are we going to hell? It means, are we really destroying ourselves? By what? Cars, cars, cars. Those cars that we use in our homes. Just simply to give a little example, when you use a gallon of petrol, somehow like 4.5 liters, something like that. For every 4.5 liters, there is 1.5 kilos of what? Of carbon dioxide released by cars. And imagine the amount of petrol that is used every day in every village, in every town. Therefore, the bigger we will have a lot of quantity of carbon dioxide, which is one of the main causes of the global warming. Look at the picture now. Here we have cars, cars, cars. Imagine those cars here, hundreds of cars, are all of them in different files, discharging huge amounts of what we call carbon dioxide. Now, recycling and cycling. What's the rapport between recycling and cycling? Recycling, it means using and reusing the different substances instead of throwing them in the landfills, and cycling, it means using our bicycles. This is part of the solution. When people, we have become very lazy, you know. Instead of walking for 1 kilometer, sometimes we have become lazy, and we have become totally dependent on cars. Sometimes you might buy something from the very near shop, just 200 or 300 meters away from your house. You don't go on foot. You simply take your car, and this, imagine then, if many people try to use their bicycles, it will be one of the most important solutions, of course, participating or contributing to reducing the amount of carbon dioxide that we discharge into our atmosphere. Now, the following one is another kind of energy, solar power. Now solar power is used, but how are we going to use it for cars? It's true. It is a truth. There are cars that use the solar energy. They are still not yet developed, but they will be developed in the future because humans are intelligent and they are able to find solutions in all the cases. The following one, that is what we call water for gas. Are we really able to use water instead of gas? And for here, FOR, as you know. This one, water is the fuel of the future. Luckily, we will not spend a lot of money, but pay attention, even water is getting rare and rare because we are overusing our water. Now, this is just what we call gas, water for gas, or water for petrol. The word gas means petrol here. We have developed devices that use a little electricity out of your car's battery to separate water into a gas called HHO, 2 hydrogen plus 1 oxygen. Those students who study sciences know better than I when you know 2 hydrogen plus HHO, also called Brown's gas or hydroxy, burns beautifully. Imagine something that burns beautifully. And provides what? Tons of energy. While the end is just water. Because it's going to, when we use petrol, the result is CO2, carbon dioxide. When we use water, the result is just water. So water is not dangerous. This is, of course, the future of humanity. This is the device that is scientifically, many of the scientists, sometimes they say that those who use this kind of technique, they try to hide the truth, not to push research on it, because what those people who have petrol will do. Water for gas, to save gas, to prevent smog, to clean the engine of your car, and to boost power. This is it. This small device forces each gallon, just 1 gallon, each gallon of water to expand, to get bigger, into gigantic, it means huge, into gigantic proportions, and we have 1,833 gallons of combustible gas. 1 gallon of water will give you 1,833 gallons of combustible gas. This is, luckily, it shows that humans are making a lot of efforts, and there are people who work for the benefit of humanity. Now, let us study the following charts. Take an example. We have taken the example of Turkey. And why not just at random I have chosen this. And here we are going to have pie charts. Now, if we look at the first one, we are going to have what we call the percentage of people in the family unit. Here, as you noticed, when you have a pie chart or a chart sometimes or a diagram, what we call a non-linear text, and there are many examples in your books, from a picture, we can change this as a text, but it's not a linear text. It's not written in words. It's a picture, a cartoon, a chart, a diagram that we can interpret, and then we changed it into a text. Here, as we see, 45%, it's the yellow, families of 4 persons. I begin with the beginning, 4% of families of 1 person, and then here 18% of 2 persons, 3 persons, and 4 persons here, and this one 5 person. You say, and the red one, families of 6 persons. You say, what is the use of that, or what is the rapport of this? We will just finish the charts, and I'll tell you what to do. Percentage of cars per family. Notice here, 33% have 2 cars. 40% have 1 car. And 3 cars, the color is this blue, and no cars. Only 12% of the Turkish society or the Turkish families don't have cars. The majority have 1 or more cars. The following one is what we call percentage of people holding a monthly public transport title, or sometimes we call it a pass. A title, a public transport title is there are many people, instead of buying their ticket every day, they just have a kind of subscription, or they buy a title or a card that allows them to travel every month, and they are not going to obliged to pay every day and to look for change. Sometimes you might have problems with the conductor. But if we look at this larger amount, we have here 80% of the Turkish families or of the Turks are non-holders. It means they don't hold this kind of public transport title. Only 20% of people, therefore, use this public transport continually. The others, they might sometimes take the public means of transport, but in general, they rely on their own cars. Imagine then, instead of using 1 bus for a great number of people, we use, let's say, 50 people in 1 bus, and 50 people are going to equals 50 cars. And of course, you see the amount of carbon dioxide that you can have from 1 bus and the amount of carbon that you are going to have from 50. Now, the following one is percentage of people using minibus and taxi or public taxi. We see here that 31% they don't use them, and 69% use what we call the minibus or public taxi. Now, reading a non-linear text, as I said from the beginning, how to read it. What we are doing, first of all, we should know how to comment upon a chart. In order to, what for? In order to produce a text, in order to write. And the first one here, we notice that the percentage of large families, 5 and 6 members, represent only 10% of Turkey. And you see here, notice that the percentage of large families, 5 to 6 members, represent only 10% of families. Therefore, we notice in this following chart, the second chart that we have noted, that we have just seen, that 48% of the Turkish families have 2 or 3 cars. 48%. It means almost half the people, half the families, 50% of the Turkish families have 2 or more cars, 2 or 3. Sometimes in some families you can have 4. The third chart, we also notice that 80% of the Turks don't hold a monthly public transport title or a pass. In other words, they don't rely in their moving in their transport on public transport. They use their own cars. And here, the last but one, is we finally notice that 69% of the Turks don't use minibus and public taxi. And therefore, what can we conclude? We then conclude that the Turks need great efforts to have an eco-driving behavior. In other words, what I want to mention here, from reading these charts, I have put them 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. And what we simply want to see, that eco-driving does not only rely on the advance or the progress of technology. It's true that people relying on technology, we can develop new devices, we look for new energies, but it is not enough to save our planet that is in danger. We have simply to think of another behavior, a behavior that respects not the people only, a behavior that respects the environment, that respects this land on which we live. And we should not be somehow selfish when we overuse water, when we use our means of transport and machines too much. In other words, we are wasting energy, we are wasting all sorts of energy, and we are not thinking about the future of our planet, some people say that we must live like brothers, or not we will perish like dogs. I'm sorry for this somehow gloom ending, but as we believe and that everything is in our hands, of course we can come to a solution. This is the end of the lesson. I want simply to wish success to all the students of Tunisia, and see you happily passing your baccalaureate exam. Thank you very much for your attention.